The ugly duckling. Once upon a time, there was a barn, and on that barn lived a family of ducks. Mother duck sat on a clutch of eggs for a few weeks. While father duck waited patiently for them to hatch. Finally, one morning, the eggs hatched, and out came beautiful baby ducklings. Mother and father duck were happy to see the baby ducklings. Father duck had observed an egg did not hatch. Oh dear, said Mother duck. I wonder how long would this take to hatch? Let me sit on them for a little bit longer. A few days later, the eggs hatched, and out came two big feet and a head. But it wasn't a soft yellow head like the other little ducklings. This one was big and grey, with a long neck and a fuzzy body. My, he certainly doesn't look like the other children, said Mother Duck. I wonder how he got to look so different. The grey duckling ate more than his brothers and sisters and grew big quickly. He is ugly and doesn't look like us, said the baby ducklings. We don't want to play with him. Now, be kind to him, little children. He's your little brother, said Mother Duck. But the little ducklings did not like him and they played outside by themselves. All the other animals made fun of him and called him ugly. This made the grey duckling sad. One beautiful day, Mother Duck took her ducklings out for a swim by the lake. All the ducklings swam, but the little grey duckling swam even better. As
the days passed by, his brothers refused to play with him and he felt miserable about the way he looked. Nobody loves me. Why am I different from the others? Thought the baby duckling.
One day, the ugly duckling decided he could take no more teasing and ran away from the farmyard. As he walked, he stopped at a pond of swimming ducks and said, "Hey, do you know of any ducklings with gray feathers like mine?" But everybody shook their heads and said, "We don't know anyone as ugly as you." He went to another pond where large geese were swimming and asked the same question. But they said, "Don't stay here. Go away quick. It's dangerous. They are men with guns." Just then, he heard a gun go bang bang and he ran quickly for his life. The duckling was sorry that he had ever left the farmyard. After walking some more, he noticed it started to rain, and so he went into a nearby shack. There he found a kind old woman who lived with her cat and hen. The old woman said, "Well, you can stay here as long as you can lay eggs to sell." As the days passed on, the ugly duckling could not lay eggs, so the old woman stuffed him with more food and said, "If you can't lay eggs, at least get fat, and I can make a good meal out of you."
The duckling was afraid and one day escaped from the shack. He ran and ran till he came to a thick bed of reeds by the water.
The ugly duckling was lonely but decided to live there away from all the other birds. There was plenty of food. As the days passed by, the duckling grew big. One day, as he was playing near the water, he looked up and saw a bunch of beautiful birds flying overhead. They were white with long, slender necks, yellow beaks, and large wings. "Oh, if only I could look like them just for a day," said the duckling. Winter came and it was cold outside. The poor duckling left home in search of food in the snow, but he could not find anything to eat. He grew weak. Luckily, one day, a farmer who was passing by found him and said, "Poor thing, I'll take him home to my children.
and they'll surely look after him.
The duckling was shot with kindness at the farmer's house, and because of this, he could live through the cold winter. By the time spring had come, he had grown very big. One day, the farmer decided to set him free by the pond. Outside, the weather was warm and sunny. Birds sang and flowers bloomed. Suddenly, the duckling found he could flap his wings and fly. He took to the air and looked for some way to call home. In no time, he found himself in a beautiful garden where, from nowhere, a few glorious white birds appeared. They were the same birds that he had seen fly off to warmer homes just before the winter. They were called swans. They were swimming gracefully in the pond. The ugly duckling was amazed by the beautiful birds and thought to himself, "Let me get near them. They might laugh at my ugliness, but I don't care. It's better to be laughed at by these beautiful creatures than to be laughed by these ducks and hens." And so he dived into the pond. "Don't laugh at me!" cried the poor creature, bending his head down into the water. But what was this he saw reflected in the clear water? It was his own image. For the first time, he saw who he really was. And to his utter amazement, he saw he was not an ugly duckling anymore, or a duckling at all, but a swan. And yes, a beautiful white swan. The other swans recognized him as one of their own and didn't chase him away. Instead, they caressed him with their beaks, and for the first time in his life, he knew what it was like to love and be loved. The swan lived happily forever. The moral of the story: do not judge a book by its cover, but accept people for their qualities, value, friendship, and humility.